There we go. I believe we're live. Yes, the audio is going out, and the video is going out.
And I have my notebook for taking notes.
Yes. So it's been a while. It's been
Smart
a while.
of you to take the week after Election Day off and come back only after Census Day.
Yeah, but that meant we didn't get to do a show the day after the network's all called the election, and all the other podcasts out there were stuck with the shows that they had recorded before the network call. And
I'll just say
so
that I was out playing Pokemon, so
okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, and the sad thing is I was here, because our mountain trip got delayed for the second time. The previous time was because I wasn't feeling good and had the COVID test. The second time was they had some medical issues. So I was here. We could have done a show, but I had gone out previously to the November 3rd Election Day protest thing in Graham, and I brought my trusty video camera, and I shot about an hour's worth of footage, and I came back and I started editing it. And I'm still editing it. I spent the day editing it. Well, I spent a couple hours that day editing it. I spent more time out on my bicycle having a good time. We've had some good weather.
We have. Today's a good day.
Is this false fall, first false summer, fall?
This is Sprinter. This is the spring part of Sprinter, and then we'll have the winter part of Sprinter.
Spring part of...
We have Sprinter.
It's November,
we are a
but
three-season state. We have summer, we have fall, and then we have Sprinter. And no offense to people with...
I thought you were telling me about false falls and early summers and last fake summers.
But we already had our false fall. This is Sprinter now. We've had a freeze, so this is Sprinter. No offense to those with bipolar disorder, but as somebody who has manic phases and depressive phases as well, I do believe so does the weather. The spring part of Sprinter is the manic phase, and then the really cold part of winter is the depressive phase. It's okay. Nature also might benefit from some therapy.
Yeah, winter doesn't bother me. I don't have the sad thing.
Oh God, I get seasonal affective disorder a lot. So I try and spend as much time outside as possible in the winter.
I'll give you the little hugging heart thing from Facebook. The care.
What I really need is more vitamin D. But I haven't gone to so. Hi, listeners who are tuned in early. Here's your don't do this, you'll die episode. Vitamin D is fat soluble, not water soluble, so you can overdose on it. And so it's really, really bad to overdose. So don't try and vitamin D dose yourself. You do have to go into your doctor, get a blood draw. They'll find out exactly how low you are in vitamin D and then tell you how much vitamin D to take. Because of the pandemic, I haven't been able to make it into my doctor this year because I'm trying to only go for things that are absolutely essential, not only because I don't want to catch a pandemic in the waiting room, but also because I want to free up my doctor's time to deal with people far more critical than me.
They won't sit you in the waiting room with other people. They'll sit you in your car outside and text you when it's time to come in.
But regardless, I don't know what vitamin D dosage I should be getting this year, so I have opted to not.
Do artificial lights give you vitamin D?
Yes, they can. Yeah, it's a humans in our own way do photosynthesize, except we take in ultraviolet full spectrum light and turn it into vitamin D in our bodies.
Yeah, I'm wondering if the lights I have in my studio here do that, but they probably don't. The thing that they are is daylight balanced. So if, for example, I switch to this camera, and you can see I'm wearing shorts because it
is
shorts and Crocs.
Sprinter.
But
if the spring part of Sprinter.
Yeah, notice, look out the window, and it doesn't look all blue because the lights in here are daylight balanced. But they're probably not giving me any vitamin D. Probably not.
Yeah, vitamin D, a chemically balanced amount of vitamin D in my body is the key to avoiding seasonal affective disorder. I don't get depressed when I have enough vitamin D. But this year I am prepared.
And you can't go outside during the daytime because you're working. Although you could take your kids out.
This is why I have the job I do. But no, the distance learning on the screen is preventing us from going outside. However, it is a laptop, and I have highly encouraged that if we put the picnic blanket down, we can put the laptop down on top of it. But I have discovered that Wi-Fi range, especially when the Wi-Fi is broadcasting from inside the house, and here's where we could really use a Brendan, does not always make for an easy video chat for the big one who has to do the distance learning. So
yeah, Wi-Fi is not great for the video thing.
We're tethered a bit to the house, even though I really wish we could get out and roam like majestic buffalo.
Yeah, but the little box with the antennas on it, if you probably can't move that around. But if you
I don't even know where it is in the house.
if you can find it and find the outside part of the house that it is closest to, that's where you would want to go. So
you're giving me ideas. I do have a spare router. I wonder if I could turn it into a repeater and put it like halfway in between us.
Yeah, probably. So not having been here to do a show immediately after the election was called by the networks, which was a Saturday, week ago Saturday, I guess, we have the opportunity to remember where we were. Do you remember where you were when you heard the news?
Yes, I was walking on the side of Estes Drive Extension in Chapel Hill, or Estes Drive Extension, if we want to put it in its correct language.
We don't.
Across from U Mall, and I was catching Pokemon. I was with a friend. We were both catching Pokemon, masks on and all that, socially distanced. And all of a sudden, cars started honking. Oh, no, the city bus started honking.
Even better.
And she and I were both looking around, and we were looking down at our feet, and we're on the non-sidewalk side of the road, and we're thinking, is the bus worried that we're going to step out into the street? And then another car honks and another car honks. And I'm like, is something see-through? Is something showing? Are they really happy we're wearing masks? I don't understand what's happening.
Honking is a little non-specific.
Then finally there's a car of 5 young women, and they're just blaring on the horn as they're turning right out of the University Mall parking lot. I'm sorry, University Place. They have rebranded. University Place because we're fancy.
They're going to sell a lot more with that name.
And one of the young women rolled down her window and screamed out a very rude thing about Trump. And I went, oh, did they call the election? And then my phone goes bing.
Remember, we can swear.
You're playing Pokemon Go on your phone. And my phone goes bing, and it's my boss, and she's letting me know that they did indeed call the election.
But you can say what the rude thing was, because I can push the explicit button. I can't remember what the
rude thing was.
Well, it's probably fuck Trump.
That would have been too few syllables for the amount that she said. But it was in there somewhere. It was very long, and my brain slowly keyed into what was happening, because I was still thinking the honking was about my friend and I and how we were dressed, or did somebody have toilet paper out of the back of their pants? Do they think we're drunk and going to step into the street? Is there a snake that they're trying to warn us not to step on? We're
Yeah, I never get the clues early either. It takes me a long time. And so what was your reaction?
I said, and I quote, that's nice, but wake me when the indictments start.
Okay, so you're less than impressed.
I didn't, I hate to be a Debbie Downer. No, I don't. I like being a Debbie Downer. This is my skill. But I was uncomfortable with how close it was. Did we learn nothing?
Yes, it is. It's a little, well, on the one hand, it was depressing that we did not get the blowout that we were hoping for. And the down ballot races, especially here in North Carolina, were the usual mix of good and bad news. On the other hand, as it's turning out numerically that Biden won bigger than Trump did, and Trump has been spending 4 years talking about how his election was a blowout and how great it was. And Biden has the same electoral vote and a bigger popular vote. So maybe it is a blowout, or at least we can claim that it is. maybe. Okay, I can see I'm failing to convince you to put the party hat back on and celebrate.
You are. Well, I'll be honest. Biden was not my first, second, or third choice.
Oh, yeah.
For president. So for me, all this is it's a moment of relief. I can stop riding the like, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all train, and start riding the now I can criticize Biden and start talking about what policies I really would like to have, because we did a never Trump. Trump is going to be gone. That's good. Now I need us to start aiming the country in the right direction.
Yeah. Oh, he's gonna get. He has a coalition from the left and from the right. You know, never Trump Republicans that came and voted. Sanders and AOC side of the Democratic Party coalition that came and voted for him, and everyone is going to want a piece of the administration, and everyone's going to think they deserve the bigger piece of that pie, and it's going to be. I'm not going to say it's going to be a bloodbath, but it's going to be a fight. There'll be punditry afoot ahead. We have something to do.
And now I would like to put on my celebration party hat and say the historic moment of our first woman vice president-elect is amazing.
Yeah. And she also may not be the one woman that you would have preferred, but
no, I would have, I've made my short list of, well, if we're going to go with a black woman former prosecutor who's a Democrat, here are the people I would have liked better. But Biden did answer reporters' questions for an article where he said the decision to go with Senator Harris was based entirely on how much he already knew her. And he really wanted somebody that he felt chummy with. Yeah. So I respect that is a way to pick somebody. Maybe not the way I would want to pick somebody, but regardless, can we give it up for the fact that we are breaking glass ceilings here? And people are saying, it's 2020. What do you mean? This shouldn't be unusual, but it is unusual, guys. Yeah. This is the first time a woman has achieved the presidency of the Senate, aka the vice presidency.
Yeah. And definitely next in line to run for president.
Yeah, I mean,
and hopefully in 4 years, because I don't think we're going to be happy with Biden for 4 years.
I would say women have been the Speaker of the House, the head of the House before, but finally we got now women have been. Now we can talk about gender balanced government.
Yeah.
Now that women and men have both been in positions of being the heads of each of the houses of Congress.
Yeah. I don't know if it'll happen in my lifetime, but it would be wonderful if we get to the point where it's just a non-issue. It's just, oh, yeah, okay, that one. But
I would like it too,
right.
as well.
You're right. It's 2020 and we haven't got there. We've just crossed the threshold of, well, here's the first to actually get elected, according to most people.
And I'm a huge fan of take them at their qualifications. So I'm not saying you should vote for somebody because they're a woman, but I would like to point out that this is the first time that there's been a qualified woman. Let's talk about the pipeline, because the pipeline's the problem.
Explain that. This is the first time there's been a qualified woman. I don't think that's quite what you meant to say. Or?
I mean, this is the first time in the pipeline that there has been, because let's not talk about Miss I can see China from, or Russia.
I can see Russia
Alaska.
from my porch.
Yeah, she's not. Well, I mean, she was a governor, but this time is the first time that for the vice presidency, there has been a woman nominee on a ticket who has held a legislative position before.
Okay.
Rather than an executive position.
So that takes Hillary Clinton out of the running, because she never had. No, she was a senator.
Yes, but she was running for president, not vice president.
Okay, but it's a higher office.
No, but I'm just pointing out that we had a pipeline problem with the office of the vice presidency. I don't think we have as much of a pipeline problem with the office of the presidency. I think we had a pipeline problem with the office of the vice presidency.
Okay.
That for some reason, women with legislative branch experience, because, sure, the president dies and the vice president gets to be president. That's one of the jobs, but the other job is they're president of the Senate. And so that's a legislative post. And this is the first time we've had a woman with legislative experience being qualified to be the head of the Senate. And that's why there are plenty of women who've served as senators. There are plenty of women with legislative experience. Why is this the first time? What's going on in the pipeline? What's discouraging people?
Oh, okay. I see what you're getting at. Yeah, it's I mean, that's all super political, the way that works out of sight of us normal mortals most of the time. I need to point out, because I gave my business card to some people at a march that I was at yesterday. I was at a celebration of the election in Raleigh at Halifax Square yesterday, being a marshal. And I gave my business card, the Triangle Talk Show card, to a couple of people there. And they may have tuned in, or they may tune into the podcast later on. And they should know that we haven't started the show yet. We just put the upfront kind of in the middle, sometimes toward the end. No,
it should be called up middle or up end.
Because I haven't described where I was yet, and where I was is definitely not show material. It's in the TMI category. So you may ask,
pooping. Did I guess it?
Yes. Yes, I was in a rest stop along I-85 on the way down to Charlotte. And
were the bathrooms clean?
Yes. Yeah, they always are. They do a good job on the North Carolina rest stops. Kudos to the guys to take care of that. And so I got back to the car, and Cindy was already back in the car, and she said, "Did you hear the news?" And because nobody was honking their horns around the rest stop. They should have been, but they weren't. But we didn't either, so I guess I can't complain too much. Anyway, so the news was that point was about 5 to 10 minutes old, so I know exactly where I was, taking care of business, resting.
I just like to say that I travel with Girl Scout cookies whenever I travel, and I always, with limited exceptions, I make sure I do my business in government-provided rest areas, just because I want to give them the traffic so that their budgets can stay high. And and if I see cleaners in there, I always offer them some Girl Scout cookies. It's my way of giving them a tip when they can't otherwise be tipped.
That's a nice thing to do.
Mm-hmm. It's worked out really well. Everybody seems to be in favor.
But you see gratitude. Cindy does something a little bit like that. Usually at Christmas, we're going to be in a hotel because we're visiting relatives, and it's not going to happen this year, I don't think. But in most years, we're in a hotel, and she will bring a box of a dozen or two little gift bags full of candy. And the people at the front desk, the doorman, people taking care of the rooms, everywhere there's some service person who's working on the holiday gets a little gift basket, and they all seem to be appreciative. So nice thing to do. Yeah. You probably send thank you notes for presents and stuff.
I do send Actually, I send fewer thank you notes than the children in my charge. I'm trying to teach my little ones to be gracious and send thank you notes, and we went with the 10-pack of thank you notes at the beginning of my nanny tenure, and now we're up to we restocked with the 100-pack of thank you notes because it became really obvious that there will be many that will be written.
Gonna need thank you notes. You know what this is I'm holding up here in my hand? The folks in the audio can't see.
Let me describe it for the folks in the audio. It is a stem that appears to be metal. It appears to have the diameter of a regular drinking straw, and then it has one end on it that looks like the rubber cap that's put on a cane, except it is yellow.
Okay, and then it has an accessory. It is the accessory to the main device. Let me see if I can get a camera picture up here that shows you the actual device. There it is.
The device is tubular metal formed into a geometric shape that is hanging from what appears to be a out-of-use mic stand.
It's actually a camera. That's the stand for this camera, the micro cam. Oh, even because it's designed to show pictures close up in front of me, I can show you the device. Yeah, this is the hammer for the triangle. You came up with a lot of words to describe something that is hammer, triangle.
I was not trying to give it away. I was going to let the audio-only audience have a moment to really contemplate.
It has a important function, and that important function is triggered by this. From the studio, in the bonus room, above the garage, on the north side of Cary, at the foot of Mount Belzoni, this is the Triangle Talk Show.
Just cut the crap, kid. I want to know what the big talk's all about.
I don't think we should talk about this.
Dancing is permitted during all this music. But you're not dancing.
No.
This is not dancing music for you?
I'm defiant. I'm an American.
You're waiting for the drop. There's no EDM in this thing.
Yet.
Is there an EDM part?
It is and how it could
No,
be.
no,
How
but
it
there
was,
could be.
of
But there
course,
could
how
be.
it should be.
That motor mouth moving morning, noon, and night. Keep on talking, baby. You know you're bound just to drive me away.
It gets a little dark toward the end. You know, stuff like, if you keep on talking, you're going to drive us away. That doesn't sound like talk show promotional material to me. Something broke. That's not supposed to cut out and then cut back. I don't know if something has failed here. I'm going to get rid of that because I need the audio channel that it's on for something else. But first, let's see, how does this work? Oh, I put my name up, and which I have failed to clear all the stuff from the last show that we did. So the I voted is still there. I'm still
But you
Mr.
did
October. It's true. It's just old. And I'm still Mr. October with my quote marks around it. And then you are?
Since you didn't say sequestered at the foot of Mount Belzoni, or sequestered, I can't begin my speech the proper way it was supposed to. But hey, I'm Jen. I'm in the yellow room.
Oh, did I not say I'm sequestered to the foot of Mount Belzoni? Did I skip that
You didn't
part?
say, and still sequestered in that studio.
Oh,
I'm Gary
and
Pierce.
still sequestered in that studio. Wait a minute. I'm still sequestered in that studio. I'm Gary Pierce.
We just broke the fourth wall, y'all. This is how the sausage is made. There is a script. Mine starts with an ellipsis, and it says, and from the yellow room on the border of Carborough in the People's Republic of Chapel Hill, sequestered at the foot of Mount Okanichi, and on the side of the hill with the chapel up top, and I ad-lib, Mount Okanichi is a real mountain, unlike Mount Belzoni. I'm Jen, and I also host Nannycast.
We don't know whether Mount Belzoni is a real mountain or not. We just know that since we live here and no one can see a mountain, it is apparently fictitious. Okay, and so the title of the show is, and I have some assistants coming here to tell you what the title of the show is. I say that it's episode 122, November 15th, 2020. And now to help me say the title of the show, if I can push the right buttons here, the title of the show is...
Norm! How you doing, Norm? What do you know?
And that worked so successfully, I was flustered and I couldn't switch away from it. Back to us in the title. I'm the technical director here, and being the technical director and the host, not an easy combination. Norm! Exclamation point. And then, in this case, followed by I almost dropped the hammer. Norm! Exclamation point, apostrophe S. To form the norms. I'm going to give that a triangle hit. Just because I can. What is that all about? Well, we'll find out. But not yet. Because really, I've been busy. I've been doing a lot of stuff. I've been doing the editing on the protest marches, and I've been going out to protest marches, and I've been riding my bicycle a lot. I've been doing a lot. None of it has anything to do with preparing for this show. So there's very little prepared for this show. It's good we're 20 minutes into it and haven't done anything yet. But fortunately, we also have the boilerplate, which we can really extend to like another 20 minutes if we want to.
That means you're reading it, I suppose. I can bust through this boilerplate in a second.
We'll share. I'll start. The Triangle Talk Show is a podcast, and that is the absolute best way to consume this program as a podcast. It is also a TV show. It's YouTube Live, Facebook Live, Periscope Live. You can see our faces in a elegantly crafted split screen. I'm on the right, Jen is on the left. My big honking microphone is coming out from the middle of the screen. Jen's big honking microphone with the big fuzzball on it and the blue LED pointed back at the camera is also coming out from the middle, as if they were on the same stand. And so that's what you're missing if you're just listening to the audio. But it's really a podcast, and it's so much more intimate just listening to it. And I take pride in the audio quality of the show. So
much pride that he sent me said big honking microphone.
Yes.
The fuzzy cover.
Yeah,
covers mine. The microphone.
Jen wanted to use a little lavalier mic, which actually sounds pretty good, but not quite as good as the big honking microphone. Big, and as I maintain, big honking microphones and big honking earphones, or big ass earphones, or in-ear monitors.
For those on the audio only podcast, I just showed off that Jen wears in-ear monitors.
Yeah, that screams podcast, not TV show. You won't see. Name any current news anchor on TV. I can't. I don't remember who
current
they are.
News anchor.
Yeah. Les, not Les Nessman.
Who watches the news? People watch the news still?
I do. I still watch the news. A little bit. I get the first couple stories. They spend like 15 minutes at the beginning of the newscast telling you what they're going to tell you. They promo like six stories, and like you're 4 minutes in before they get to the first story. So fortunately, I have them on the DVR on the YouTube TV, and I just click past all that stuff and get to the first one eventually. But so we watch it. It's news for old people, and now you're watching News for Old People, brought to you by commercials for drugs for old people. Because that's all the commercials that they have.
And sometimes cars.
Cars on the local news, but not the network news. The network news is all drugs.
Listen, we live in a world where we need them.
Yeah. Yeah, they got one drug that is supposed to make your brain work better, and it's it's based on a chemical you'll find in a jellyfish. So
Glogene?
I don't know. I don't remember what it was, or I'm not the wrong drug, Prevagen or something like that. And so I make fun of the commercial and say, and it's going to turn your brain into a jellyfish.
It probably will.
I like doing that voice. I could have made money with that voice. People out there who aren't. My wife is accusing me of being smart but unmotivated. And she wants me to go out and get a job as a Amazon driver for the holiday, right?
Yes, that's the way to get COVID.
She's back out. She's there. You want to come sit to the microphone here and.
No, I don't have my game face on.
Oh, she doesn't have her podcast face on. So yes, I did.
Neither do I.
I did extensive makeup here before I came on the show.
That's why you can't see my lips. Those of you on the audio only podcast, you're winning. Did
you know that Zoom, what we're using, has?
Yes, I tried their makeup.
You tried their lips?
It does its best. We'll put it that way. Bless its heart, it tries.
Zoom lips. You can put on makeup. You can put on rouge.
They have a very orangey red, which people can't tell, but especially not on the audio only podcast. You lucky winners, you. But the shirt I'm wearing is a bluey red, and my hair is a bluey pink. And so when I have the orangey red lips, it's just wrong.
Clash. Train wreck.
Yes.
A visual train wreck right there on Zoom.
It is very much not the thing.
Okay. Have you been
Not the done thing.
Have you been tracking with the what I've been reading here?
Yes.
Gary takes pride in the quality of the audio. Over to you.
Okay. We talk about anything we want. We aim more or less of things that are of interest to people living in the triangle. Gary has termed us people living in the triangle as triangularians, and he does a really weird air quotes about it. Again, those of you listening on the audio only podcast are winning.
I thought the way you did air quotes was by dropping your hands down from the top. I did some research
Look
afterwards.
like trousers hanging on the line.
And I discovered that this is the way you do it, with little curly fingers coming up from below. But I had never noticed that in my entire life until I did it on the show, and Jen and Sarah said, "What are you doing?" I'm doing air quotes. No, you're not. This is air quotes.
We are deeply, deeply unbalanced. We aim toward the left-leaning politics side, even when we have our token libertarian, because she is a progressively liberal libertarian.
I'm hoping she comes back someday. I know
Yep,
things are chaotic over in her life, so someday.
Yeah. We do get political. We always get political. We find a way to get political. But here's the thing, and now I'm going to divert from the upfront and the boilerplate. Political is how it is to exist in a country. It's different than partisan. There's political and then there's partisan. Everything is political. And a lot of people think that the word partisan and the word political are interchangeable, but they differ by some very important and significant margins.
And up until this very moment, I was one of those people, and now you're going to tell me where I got it wrong.
Well, when we get to it, we'll get to it. But yeah, we always get political because everything is politics. Our Facebook group is Triangle Talk Show. Our YouTube channel also Triangle Talk Show. Gary wants you to subscribe, even if you never visit it again, because if he gets 1,000 subscribers, he can do mobile live streaming, which in a pandemic is not so helpful, but he wants it just to have.
I could have done live streaming from the protest march that I was at yesterday. And so you guys from Greensboro that I gave the business cards to, go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Triangle Talk Show, and subscribe, and then never hear from us again. That'll be fine.
You do not have to click the bell icon. Our Twitter and Periscope are at Talk Triangle, because Triangle Talk Show was not the way we were going to go with the Twitter family of things.
No, I just screwed up on Twitter because I didn't know how Twitter worked, and they said, "What's the name of that you want to be?" And I did Triangle Space Talk Space Show, and they, however they do things, they changed that to at Talk Triangle, as if my name was Triangle Talk, and I don't know. Had I known that's the way they do it, I could have figured it out how to make it at Triangle Talk Show, probably just by putting it all in, squishing it together the way we do these days. I was old before we started doing that, so that's not normal for me. But I've learned, Triangle Talk Show with no spaces is the way it is done, but capitals in the middle. You're young. These things are normal to you. I had to learn them.
Podcast-wise, we're everywhere. Literally everywhere. Wherever you are listening to us, that is where we are, but we're also everywhere else.
Apple Music, TuneIn, Spotify, Stitcher. The reason for listing these off
is to give them free advertising, clearly.
It's promotional. Well, it's just cool that we can be that many places. Broadcasting to the universe from the studio and the bonus room above the garage. Apple, TuneIn, Spotify, Stitcher, whatever that is. Google Podcasts, your smart speaker on Amazon.
Your smart speaker on Google because of Google Podcasts.
Yeah. Which I've yet to test. Cindy was testing. I've got Google Fi and Google Fiber. They're two different things. Google's been sending me these free little speaker pod things, and Cindy decided to test them out. Cindy has an iPhone.
Oh, well, then her phone won't start chirping when you try and talk to the smart speaker.
She couldn't get it to talk to the speaker at all. And I pull out my Google Pixel phone and go bip, 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 and I start making it play. I don't know how I did it, but I started making it play. She's mad. So she went out and bought a $300 Bose speaker that does AirPlay from her Fi phone. So
the house I work in is a Google house, and the one parent and I both have Android phones. The other parent has an iPhone, and the number of devices that will respond when you use the trigger word is insane. This is why I stand by my initial claim that I made on this show that the Echo series is the better one to have, because if that trigger word won't make everybody's phones respond.
Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, echo is a potential trigger word. Don't select it as if you have one of those, because all of us media people will say echo when we're trying to be polite and we don't want to say, Lex. If I do it this way, it should not cause them heartburn on their speakers. Lex. That didn't set any off, right?
Not in my house.
Let's hope not.
But I am listening with earphones.
So let me get this part in, because this will be germane to the two people that I gave the business card to. Like us, review us, rate us, hate us. I don't care. There is something useful that you can do. You can share us. Tell your friends. Tell total strangers. I would like to acknowledge this is risky for you, because if someone listens because you recommended us and they don't like us at all, for example, they might not like a show that's gone 32 minutes into the show and hasn't really done anything yet.
I believe we started by identifying that there's a problem with the pipeline for vice presidents.
Well, we did. If they don't like us at all, well, that reflects badly on you and your questionable taste. But really, didn't they already know that about you? So it's not that risky. And now, on with the show. At 32 minutes, this is the beginning of the show. Sort of. Which I put a stack of headline kind of things here in the show notes and the show document, with not very much behind them, because I didn't spend very much time preparing for this. So I'm really counting on you to fill in the gaps from general knowledge. Do you see anything in there should we start with
Let's start with Tillis.
Okay, because we named the show
scolding.
Norm.
Yes, we'll start with the scolding, get that out of the way, and then when you're feeling particularly cowed, we can talk about transitions.
Okay, so all I put in the show notes for this was Tillis. That's it. Take it away,
North Carolina,
Jen.
Triangle. You have disappointed me.
Did you say
but
triangle?
More importantly, you have disappointed yourselves, because you chose Tillis again. Why?
Damn.
Why did you do that? Do you like being hurt? Do you? Because, see, if we'd gone with Cunningham, his wife would have been hurt, but you would have been happy. You've gone with Tillis. Cunningham's wife is still hurt, and now you're hurt too. Yay! I hope you are proud of yourself and what you have done.
Is that it?
That's it.
I should have done this, and this is when I push this button, it always screws up the audio for a moment. So I'll be very quiet and then push the button. There we go. We don't hear anything, but the audience hears the claxons. The instant editorial. That was an instant editorial, wasn't it?
It was. It was also an admonition. Shame on you for voting for Tillis. You had options. You had options that were not Tillis. Why? Why would you do that to yourselves? You cannot unhurt Mrs. Cunningham by your vote.
Yeah, why would someone vote for Biden and Tillis? Doesn't make any sense.
People were like, well, I know his name.
So I am always, I feel like I'm on walking on eggshells when I complained about the electorate being stupid, but sometimes they are. Is the electorate stupid?
The electorate is gullible.
Okay.
Gullibility isn't necessarily stupidity. It shows a kind and trusting heart and a willingness to believe the best about people. These are all good things. Unfortunately, con artists like Tillis can come in and take advantage of that.
Yeah. All right. So you voted for Tillis. You put him back in for another 6 years. You almost were, we might split the Senate if 2 Democrats get elected in Georgia. And we're all trying to convince ourselves and buck ourselves up that that's even possible. But, you know, it's irritating to me that the shows that talk about the election in Georgia don't mention, and they'll say things like, well, the two Democrats that are running, they had the plurality of votes. They just didn't have the majority, so they go to a runoff. But they were running against two Republicans. And I'm not sure how that works out, how there can be two Republicans in the election. This wasn't a primary. This was the election. Was one not listed as a Republican?
I don't know if this counts as one of those norms thing where you're only allowed to have one candidate per party. I do know, based on my filing of paperwork to be a presidential candidate, that so long as anybody didn't withdraw, no matter what their party affiliation was, they were still eligible to be voted for, even if they didn't win their primary.
Okay. This is one of those things where I would have prepared more for this particular issue, but I was riding my bike and having a good time in the nice weather. And then I was out yesterday doing the marshalling I was doing was on my bike, riding around Halifax Mall. And they were having their event in Halifax Mall. And then down on Edenton Street, just on the north side of the state capitol, there was this interesting dynamic of, on the Capitol side, there were the Trump people who have fully convinced themselves that the election was stolen. And on the other side of the street, there were you can't really call them Biden people. It was probably more Black Lives Matter and a kind of a broad coalition of the left and the very farther left, which is why you can't really call them the Biden people. But and they were hollering at each other, turning their PA systems up to 11.
You know what we call this? We call this a dick measuring contest.
Yeah, that's what it was. And so
do you want to win, or do you want to be right?
So
if you already know you're right, you don't need to win. You have won.
So from the marshal's training that I got before I did this, we were a little worried that some folks would migrate up there from the Trump thing and harass the people that were doing the election celebration. And they didn't. Let's see. Jen wants to be off camera. I can tell because Jen's off camera. But
Jen is back on camera. Jen had a yuck in her teeth.
Ooh, yeah. You don't want to show that to the audience.
Jen got rid of the yuck in her teeth. Again, audio only podcast folks, you are winning.
And you didn't need to know that at all. But I pointed it out helpfully. So we were worried that some folks from the Trump thing would migrate up and harass the people that were celebrating the election. We were technically nonpartisan. Technically everybody, happy of the election.
Well, here we go. There's the difference between partisan and political.
Okay, I guess. Anyway.
It was political, but you weren't shilling for any particular party, hence why nonpartisan. Okay,
so that's kind of like League of Women Voters, where it's all political stuff, but it is technically nonpartisan, although I think I know which way they go. I think. Anyway, so I would ride my bike down the block and a half down to there and observe what was going on, see if anybody was migrating up our way. A couple people did, sort of, but they never ended up causing any trouble. I think that the intensity of the activity going on both sides of Edenton Street at the north side of the Capitol was so overwhelming that no one was going to leave that to go bother a bunch of snowflakes up, celebrating the success of the election. No, they were committed. They were, it was intense. They needed volume.
I hope that they have yelled out all of their feelings.
Oh, no.
And have led to world peace and solved all the problems. Because otherwise, that's just a catharsis.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying catharsis is bad. We all need our catharses from time to time. But if you were thinking that anybody was going to look upon your catharsis and go, oh, now there's somebody acting sane and reasonably, you're very wrong.
Well, so not to get us too far away from our norms thing, but sooner or later we'll talk about that. And by the way, you folks from Greensboro that got my business card, sometimes I'll title the show. I'll always title the show before the show happens because I don't want to go back and do editing and figure out a title based on what we talked about. So the title happens before the show. There's no guarantee we're going to ever talk about what the title has.
I did mention a little bit of it. So he has titled it Norms because he wants to talk about the transition norms versus the transition rules. Because norms are not codified into law necessarily. My mother would be great on this because she actually does jurisprudence and she can talk about how some norms just by existing actually are considered law and can be adjudicated.
There's new information for me.
Yeah. But in terms of being written down, printed, bound, promulgated as part of statutes, a lot of the election transition norms are not.
If we were to try, I mean, the thing about norms is that Trump has been, quote, violating them since the beginning.
He has indeed.
And we all go, I'm shocked. And then he does it again and we're shocked again. And
what's the saying our favorite, most incompetent president of recent times said, George W. Bush, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice. Well, I mean, once you get fooled, you can't get fooled again, right?
Oh, yes, you can.
No, but that was the way he put it. Fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. And I feel like Trump has had a lot of people who should have said shame on me, but didn't. And that does tell me a lot about the populace and their ability to be self-reflective. Yeah.
And the news, which needs fodder. So,
well, I mean, the news is outrage porn. They sell you their outrage. And except for the times when you access it for free and don't pay. And then, you're just getting outrage for free. Although, to be fair, you can just go down to any sort of Skid Row where people who may have had just a little bit too much crack or just a little bit too much meth are just yelling at clouds and get your outrage for free there too.
Can't say I've ever done that.
No, you like outrage with high production values. I understand.
Outside of my range of experience. So Trump's been doing this norm violating. I guess I'm thinking if the stack of legal stuff, of laws, actually codified laws, were this big, and I know I'm holding my hands up to the camera about 6 inches apart and trying to figure out how to get them both parallel.
I was going to say, those of you on the audio only podcast, his hands are one ice cream microphone width apart from one another. Okay. It's hard to tell over Zoom. So
if the totality of codified law, codified or codified?
I don't think that it is codified because there's no silent E on the end.
Okay.
And the silent E on the end would make the O into the long O.
If the totality of codified law was this
pronunciation
big,
rules.
and I know that in reality it is, there's no way I could contain it in the frame of this television broadcast. If we were to add norms to this stack of codified law, then it would...
He is now holding his hands farther apart than the frame allows.
Off
so
screen.
It is a bigger distance than he was previously.
Here, I can help. We're getting this big now. My arms are not long enough.
7 feet apart.
Yes. Do you think I'm on base for that? That there's just so much stuff that goes on within government and at all levels that we just do because that's the way we do things that haven't been written into law that it would...
We rely a lot on norms, yes.
Okay. I guess that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, that's why we had a constitutional crisis back during Nixon. That's why if Trump refuses to leave the White House, which, gosh, if I know Trump will never follow through on a promise, but he really did promise to flee the country, and I really would like that to be the promise that he keeps.
I can't believe losing to this Sleepy Joe.
I would say, but if he refuses to leave the White House, then we'll have another constitutional crisis because there is no actual procedure written down for what happens if the president just pulls a temper tantrum, sits, crosses his legs, and says, I won't go.
I got a feeling that the Secret Service would be happy to remove him.
I hope. But again, it's never happened, so.
Yeah.
Because there's a certain amount of gentlemanly behavior that is expected. And I refuse to use ladylike behavior because of the the fact that there's toxic femininity in this world as well. And most ladylike behavior was being married off to some really old dude at age 13. Nobody wants that. Oh, maybe we do. From Trump. But yeah, there's a
I'm
certain
going to have
amount
to rewind and play that back. We want Trump to be married off at age 13?
to some really old dude who's landed, though, who has land.
Okay.
And can therefore provide for his new bride.
And that is ladylike behavior?
Yeah. Think about it. Where does the term lady come from? It's the child of somebody with a peerage title. The girl child of somebody with a peerage title.
Okay,
she
so
can't inherit. And so that means when daddy dies, she is at the whims of whoever the title passes to. So a lot of times they would marry them off as quickly as possible just so that they didn't have to worry about their daughters suddenly being paupers.
So
that, my friend, is ladylike behavior, is just accepting that is your role in life. Going.
So we have come so far, and yet you women want more. You're still not satisfied.
But yeah,
Jenna's not leaping at that bait.
I mean,
That low-hanging
is anybody
fruit.
ever satisfied?
Well, I don't
Listen, when I finish a pint of ice cream, do you think I'm going, oh, that ice cream was great. It is all I ever wanted from ice cream in life. I shall be happy with this memory of this thing.
Okay,
No,
so
I buy more ice
momentarily,
cream.
perhaps. Yeah. Ice cream, by the way, only comes in single-serving containers. Have I mentioned that before?
Just depends on how big your appetite is.
Well, no, it doesn't depend on the size of the container. It will be finished in one sitting.
That is why.
If you-
I went to divert this conversation for a minute. I went grocery shopping the other day for ice cream because it occurred to me that, and I won't be here next week on the show. Gary might have to do it by himself, or Brendan might come back and defend Wi-Fi routers. For those of you who listen to the pre-show.
Yep. Actually, that wasn't on the air.
We did not discuss.
You're getting. We talked about it, but I hadn't pushed the on the air button yet.
There you
So-
go. This
so
is,
yeah,
this
you're-
is why you should be on the panel of people on the show, because then you get to hear this stuff.
Yeah.
But
It's your birthday coming up.
my birthday is coming up, so I bought ice cream because it occurred to me that I might wish to have ice cream to go with the cake, to cut some of the sweetness in the cake, which is, let's take a moment and think about the fact that we're eating sweet ice cream to cut the sweetness in sweet cake.
Yes.
But this is the world we live in.
There's a quizzical expression on my face at that.
This is the world we live in. It does. It works because the fats in the cream really do help cut the sugar in the cake. Especially if you, that's why I pie a la mode. Anyway, and I was at the grocery store and I'm on the ice cream aisle and I couldn't find ice cream that wasn't sold in non like solo person size. They did not have, they used to have the family size, like big briar, bricks. They don't have it anymore. It's all tiny little halo top sized cups.
I think the Harris Teeter I go to has it. The aisle goes from your Ben and Jerry's pint to the bricks, the half. Is it a half gallon?
Half gallon, I do believe. Yeah,
Yeah,
mine
okay.
didn't. Other things that my Harris Teeter did not have
Whoa.
include Vital Wheat gluten. They had all the other Bob's Red Mill flours from Bob's Red Mill, but they did not have the Vital Wheat gluten product, which is going to make it very tough for me to teach people how to make a fake Thanksgiving turkey that's really seitan.
Yeah. The ice cream aisle I can help you with. That aisle, I know nothing.
Yeah.
Are you able to find beans these days?
Yes. Yeah, I picked up a package of garbanzo beans. I was dried ones too. My favorite kind, because then I can control the sodium content. But now, back to the topic.
I'm not sure how far back we go and which topic we pick up when we go back, but I think you got this.
Back to the topic. Trump transition teams, norms, that sort of
norms.
thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, just to bring everybody back up to speed, including me, because I had to pause and go look at my notes. We rely a lot on norms, and I am somebody who very strongly believes that even though there is a cost associated with printing each and every letter of each and every word, and yes, your local government budget office does know the cost of each letter in each word, No, I am not kidding. Yes, if you're bored, you should call them and ask. E's. E's versus O's. E's take a little more ink, so they have a slightly higher cost. O's, despite being closed, they have a little less ink. It's a whole thing. Great fun, though, for if you really want to get into the weeds on things. I believe very strongly that we need to codify our norms. That, it's been well and good.
So we're going to go
playing.
from this to...
I mean, it'll make the law books bigger, but it won't make law school any longer because, as I have been informed by many who have gone to law school doesn't teach you the laws; it teaches you the case law, and it won't change case law. And it teaches you how to look up existing statutes, and then from that, it teaches you how to read and interpret those, but it doesn't teach you to memorize the existing statutes.
There's no one person that knows everything in the law.
There is not.
Too huge.
There is, however, LexisNexis and Westlaw, who knows everything in the law. Take your pick of which one of those is the better one, and then send me all the swag that your particular search engine sends you that you don't need another one of.
So what are the specific norm things of this election that are normative and are
being helpful? Being helpul to the transition team. Trump actually ordered departments under his purview to not be helpful, which, because it's one thing to be handed a stack of paperwork and an office with some computers with some files on it and have to bring yourself up to speed. It's a lot easier if somebody goes, we put this stuff there and that stuff here, and let me talk you through our filing system and our organization and, brief you on where we're leaving certain projects. That Trump has ordered departments to not do. And God, I hope that in the same way that he ordered people to say, what was it? The thing with, now I'm suddenly stumped for dead air, because when I learned about this, I said this is going to be a perfect point for the Triangle Talk Show.
Can't tell you how often that happens to me.
During the big investigation about Russian interference, he ordered people to obstruct justice.
Oh, the Mueller investigation.
Yes, the Mueller investigation. And they went, no, I think we'd rather not obstruct justice. Thank you. Even though you're my boss and you're giving me an order and I'm supposed to follow your order because that's what an employee does and I risk being fired, I'm going to not. I'm really hoping that people will find that same amount of courage once again.
Yeah,
because I have heard whispers that this might be something that they can get Trump for, because some of the ways in which he has requested people not to be helpful or ordered people not to be helpful may in fact violate actual law.
Yeah, there's a debate that I've heard whether it's going to be useful to go after Trump for all kinds of things after he's out of office, or that's just destructive and not useful for the country. And I'm not sure which side I come down on that.
I think that here's my fear, and this fear and $1 will get you on the bus. I fear that if we do go after Trump for all the things that he has done wrong, then Biden will pardon him, because you want to talk about norms. That's a norm. Presidents pardoning former presidents who have later been discovered to be engaged in shady acts of nonsense is a norm, and it has happened, and it has happened in history more than once. And that's
I can only think of the one when Ford pardoned Nixon.
That's the most recent, but we got some, the really old dead white guys who we don't even remember anymore. They did it too, because Ford wasn't the first. Ford had precedent to look at. I'm really concerned that we would be living through another version of that, and I don't want Trump pardoned. But I don't know what the statute of limitations on what he's done is. My hope, my wish, dear tooth fairy, if you want to bring me what I'm asking for when I put my tooth under the pillow, or somebody's tooth under the pillow, maybe not mine, we won't ask where the tooth comes from, is for Trump to leave the country as promised and have the sort of Damocles over his head being that if he returns to this country, he will be prosecuted for crimes.
That will be acceptable. I'm down with that.
Perfectly fine with exile.
Yeah. So back to norms a little bit. People are confused about who calls the election, because the networks typically do some kind of election calling based on however they figure things out.
Yeah, they've got really good qualified people with great statistical models and good predictability. They've done decent polling. I mean, as good a polling as any polling can be done because people lie to pollsters. And usually, typically, they have more money than government, so they can actually hire the creme de la creme talent that's at least the mercenary creme de la creme talent out of our universities. So they do a pretty good job calling elections. But, and here's where I know the answer, and I wish Sarah were around because she knows the answer better. The elections are not certified until Census Day, and in North Carolina, Census Day was 2 days ago on the 13th. So that is the point at which the numbers are final, is on Census Day.
In North Carolina, they didn't even finish counting then, till that day.
No, because it was Census Day was the 13th. They didn't have to.
Okay. Well, I mean, they got that extension for receiving ballots.
They did, but that did not change Census Day. Census Day was still the 13th. I believe the ballot extension went to the day before Census Day or the 12th. The
12th, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's how they picked that day.
Yeah, but there was no extension offered on. I guess I'm going to repeat the word Census Day, but I'm saying it so many times, I'm hoping somebody will Google it and learn that Census Day is the day at which North Carolina certifies its election numbers. It's considered certified, final, in the bank, done. So
when you say census, does it have anything to do with the big U.S. Census we all did, or is that just another use of the word census?
Yeah, census means counting.
Okay.
And so the census is the counting, and then we have Census Day, which is the counting of the votes.
Do all states do that on the same day?
I do not know the answer to that. I know North Carolina's Census Day because I was quizzed on it most recently by Sarah over Facebook, but about 3 years ago, I learned about it for the first time because I did not realize there was an official name to the day.
Okay. And it is confusing because that will happen every 2 years when we have an election. But the census, because this year we're also doing the main U.S. census count. So
I would like to propose a name change for one of those. Since the word census does not appear in the Constitution, I would like to propose that one, the big count of everybody in America, gets changed. I don't know what we should change it to, but I thought that since we are several $1 trillion in debt, what we should do is we should raffle off every decade. You get to have naming rights to that, and we will start the bidding at $1 trillion.
Okay, so it's going to be the Apple.
I mean, if Apple wants to kick in $1 trillion for naming rights to this,
Apple, Google, Microsoft.
This is how I have planned to solve our deficit.
The Apple, Google, Microsoft population count of America.
I mean, because nobody else is going to care. But let them have naming rights. It's what they do with buildings. It's what they do with stadiums to take care of any budget debts. Why not?
Okay. So we appled up the number of people in the country, and it turned out to be 342 million.
I am okay with this.
And we're appling another. The Apple told us we could get another congressperson in North Carolina.
I mean, you never know. You could end up with the Saudi royal family being the naming rights winner.
We have to say something about it being domestic.
Oh, no, I'm fine with extending this as far as it goes. Since China owns all of our debt anyway, if their bid wants to be to just forgive our debt, that's cool with me.
That would be a bargain for us, not for them. I'm sure they got more than $1 trillion worth of American debt. I think. I don't know.
I mean, they own the majority of our deficit. So, and by the way, if anybody's like, I know we have a deficit, I know we're in debt to somebody, I know we have a credit rating, who are we in debt to? The answer is China. So therefore, China is not really going to ever attack us. It's not an enemy because if it does, it's killing an investment. We are the investment. Us repaying that deficit to China is something that they're counting on or should be counting on. They're not going to kill the goose that laid the golden egg.
Yeah, I have heard that as a new modern era version of mutually assured destruction. Now, they cause us any trouble. They're just, as you say, they're destroying their investment.
Yep.
Bad idea. So anyway, so the networks, they make a call, but it is not. There's nothing official about it.
No.
The thing that I had never heard of before, or at least didn't remember, it was this GSA thing, where someone, run in the General Services Administration. They had a word for it. I can't remember what that word is now either, but they basically authorized expenditures and passwords and stuff for the incoming administration to start coming in. And that is someone Trump has said, you will not make this determination.
So now we have gotten into the part that might be illegal, and the part where this might be, we can just add it to Trump's tab of potential crimes. This is where I'm really hoping that they will go, oh, you know what? No, thanks. Like, thanks to the Comey report. Mueller report.
Comey was FBI director.
So many white guy names. Thanks to the Mueller report, I am aware that other people have already had this precedent of just not doing what Trump has asked. I'm going to just do that too. Yeah. Not do what Trump has asked.
Actually, so Mueller was also FBI director at one point, but that wasn't his position as writing that report. So I said that Trump told her she shouldn't do it, or she couldn't do it, but I really don't know whether that's specifically true, whether he issued the specific order or she just took it on her own to say, I'm not ready to do this yet. If she's a total loyalist, she can operate on a wink and a nudge and not a specific order. And I believe she's a loyalist.
Well, then she's going to go to jail for herself.
Yeah. Well, maybe not. I mean, I don't know.
We as a nation don't have any problem prosecuting underlings.
Listening to the news, I don't know what triggers her making this determination. It is not not the Congress, the college, the Electoral College. That hasn't happened yet. That happens in December. They all get together and cast their votes. And
right. And
that is the most official thing, or the only official thing that happens that actually determines.
For president, yes, but for other offices, like the fact that Tillis is going back to the Senate, that's determined already.
Okay.
Census Day.
Yeah. Okay.
Anything that has an electoral college, which
so
is
the
only the presidency.
The North Carolina Census Day set our electoral college electors.
So here's where it gets interesting. And please, if you know better than me, by all means, feel free to correct me in the comments of wherever you're getting this from. I will state that my source has been word of mouth from people at the North Carolina General Assembly. So, given how much qualification they need to have to be elected, I'm not sure that they're necessarily the most educated. But I am under the impression that we do not have any codified law. We only have norm here that our representatives and senators are our electors. I do believe that we have the option to replace somebody with somebody else to go vote in the electoral, only to go vote in the electoral college, not to sit in those congressional seats if we so choose. But we have never done that, and we don't have a policy for it or a procedure for it. But yeah. So when you say that these guys are going to be the ones who are going to be our electors, not necessarily, but also it's never not been that way. So why should we worry?
All right. So, there's plenty of this normative stuff in the state. It's not just federal.
Oh, no, we got a lot of it here, too. There's so much that's just tradition, like the Senate House basketball game.
Which determines the presidency?
No, it's just a basketball game that we pay our North Carolina legislators to play against one another.
We pay them to play it?
Yeah, we pay their salary.
Oh, okay. Well, from that perspective, I guess. Yeah, you're more familiar with that because it doesn't really make the news much. It might be a blip one day. But, you're all legislature. Your legislature girl.
Roaming those halls. I am the child of a staffer, a permanent staffer, not one that was attached to anyone's particular campaign or office. So after school, the bus would drop me off at my parents' office, and their office was in the legislative office building, and I would just wander and generally not be any trouble until it was time to go home.
Oh, but you could have been trouble.
I may have taught at least one person who thankfully is no longer in the General Assembly how to use a computer.
Okay, so you weren't like 4. You were.
It was between the ages of, when did I go to elementary school? Between the ages of like 5 and 16.
Okay.
I sat in many, many committee meetings just drinking their coffee.
You should have been drinking coffee. You were too young lady.
Let me tell you, that'll be a committee stopper when you go up for like your 3rd cup of coffee and somebody looks around for your parent and they're like, is she 7? Should she be on a 3rd cup of coffee?
And should she be voting in this committee?
No, you just, people can just sit in the gallery. Like there's the conference table. For those on the audio only podcast, I have just drawn an air rectangle with my pen that I'm holding in my hands. And then there's a bunch of rows of seats further back in the committee conference rooms. And it's just for general public who want to be witness to how government works. And then in between the conference table and the rows of seats, there is the coffee table.
We let the general public observe the workings of government?
We do if they can get there and want to. Get there
first. I
highly recommend, by the way, the North Carolina General Assembly coffee. It is some of the best coffee I've had in my life.
Okay. I have in the past taken the Triangle Talk Show's camera into the state legislature and set up right next to, well, the TV, local TV stations get to be down on the floor.
They do. And then they also have permanent TV cameras that are actually owned by the General Assembly that local TV stations can just get the feed of from the press room. And rather than have to put their own cameras in. And then they have an official tax-funded cameraman who does a really good job of, actually aiming the camera at the person who's talking.
Well, I got to be up in the gallery, which means I could see about the front 2/3 of the, it was, I think I've done it both in the House and the Senate, once each. I could see about the front 2/3 and I could see whoever was up in front. And they had what is known in the TV business is an audio breakout box. It's a box that has a dozen or so audio connectors on it. And I plugged into that, and the page, or the guy that was monitoring all of us people up there.
That would be somebody in the Sergeant of Arms office.
Yeah, Sergeant of Arms.
Down on the yeah.
Yeah, Sergeant of Arms.
Which, by the way, that's also a tax-funded position.
Page? Or Sergeant of Arms?
Yeah, pages get paid too.
Okay, both of them.
When I was finally old enough, they decided that I needed to stop my roaming and be paid to do something. So I was a page.
Yep. So I was going to go plug my audio in because you can't really hear very well up there. It's all very boomy. And he says, I don't think that works. So I pick up the box. Well, the box is mounted to the wall. And so I go to plug it in and it falls off the wall. and I plug in and it's trying to fall apart. And there's no audio coming out of it. I say, yes, that definitely doesn't work. You can, however, listen live. I think they've even turned on video. When I was doing this a couple of years ago, they had a live audio feed that you could pick up from anywhere on the internet. I think they're doing video now because of the COVIDs. I think you can actually watch our government in action.
I recommend, if you are a person with some time on your hands and you have not ever attended any of that, never mind the big session stuff, but any of the little committee stuff, like, give it a shot. You'll find out, first of all, that your elected representative is not the brains of the operation, thank God. That they have experts who come into these committee meetings and basically explain everything in whatever the bill is and teach the people there, the elected representatives there, what they need to know about being able to make an informed decision. And then sometimes the experts, and these really they're qualified experts in this, then they are asked, how would you vote on this bill? What problems do you see on this bill? And so the problems are really discussed and fleshed out. And only the truly dogmatic dumb butts go ahead and just vote because it's somebody in their party who said so, or because somebody in the executive branch wants the bill passed. Most everybody else is very thoughtfully going, oh, well, we have these problems, we need to fix it. And that's where a lot of the amendments that get instantly introduced come from. They come from people who are saying, well, the majority of the people here in this room are just going to dogmatically vote for this bill, but there's this problem that has been identified, and it's a serious one, so I'm going to instantly introduce an amendment to take care of that problem. I may not be able to kill the bill, but at least I can try and preempt this problem.
There's also a lot, I believe, a lot of legislation that goes on that is not controversial. Hundreds of bills get passed and blow on through, and just to keep things working in government.
The surprisingly controversial bill that got passed when I was a Senate page was one where I can't remember what the food was, but it was to name a state food festival. Not a state barbecue festival, because we had a lot of barbecue festivals going on in the state, but it was like a strawberry festival, and there was only one strawberry, or a pickle festival, or a watermelon festival, something where there is only one in the whole state, and they wanted to therefore declare that one the state whatever festival. Excuse me.
Bless you.
And
or Gesundheit, or whatever people say these days. I don't know.
And the amount of debate on the floor of the Senate for this, which should have breezed through, I really got to perfect my customer service smile, because as a page, we're not allowed to sit. We have to stand up, and then a senator will wave their hand in the air, and the page comes over, what do you need? I need a refill on my coffee, or I need a copy of this bill, or I need a tissue, or whatever they need. You go get it for them. And so I'm standing in my post, and I'm just like, and just zoning out, because it takes them an hour, and it's in the Senate record. It takes them an hour to come to the conclusion that the only existing whatever festival should be the state's whatever festival. And then in the middle of it, some guy gets up to read a poem that he wrote when he was in middle school about basketball. Just because. Because, you're allowed to get up and speak into the mic, and there's nobody except for the president of the Senate, which is what, Senator Harris is going to be in the U.S. Senate. And there's nobody but the president of the Senate who's tasked with keeping order. And if the president of the Senate, or the president pro tem of the Senate, in case the president of the Senate is otherwise occupied or out, doesn't care, then you can get up and read your poem about basketball that you wrote when you were 13. That does not rhyme.
Yep. I'll correct you. Vice President-elect Harris at this point. Although yes. Senator is an honorific these days that could still apply, but she'll have upped the ante one to vice president.
Fair point. Fair point. I'm trying to give her title rather than just refer to her by first name, as so many women are usually done.
So technically, though, she is not vice president-elect except by norm, because the Electoral College hasn't voted yet. The lady that's the head of the GSA hasn't authorized it yet. And where she makes her determination, I'm not sure, but I believe it's from the networks, the TV networks that call it, because nothing else has accumulated enough information officially yet to make that determination. So when she says pulls the trigger on all of the cooperation stuff and bringing people in an office space and computer passwords and stuff.
The electors have to then have their electoral college vote, because faithless electors are a thing.
Yeah.
Only some number of this is where Sarah knows the exact number, but it's in the teens. Only a number of in the teens number of states have any legislation requiring their electors to be faithful or dealing with the consequences of a faithless elector.
What a screwed up country we live in and hardly know about it.
But it's the norms. The norm is that your elector will vote to represent their state's wishes. And if they don't, and you happen to live in a state without any sort of legislation on the matter, then guess what? Sucks to be you. You're stuck with it. Yeah. So if we want to talk about quote unquote stolen elections, faithless electors are the way to get it.
You did almost proper air quotes, except
with a pen. Yeah,
and your other hand is off camera.
And whose fault is that?
Okay. Hang on. There you go.
Stolen elections. For those of you on the audio only podcast, he has expanded my field of view on the screen so that you can see both of my hands doing proper air quotes from the bottom up.
Yep. Do I have the? Is it
And
the?
I'm doing a John Stewart thing today with the pen. He always has a pen in his daily show, and I have a pen to take notes, and I have no notes that I have taken.
I have my triangle hammer, which I've discovered that there's various ways to hit this triangle, and if I do it right, I get a nice resonant ring. Otherwise, it's kind of a wishy-washy. Yeah, isn't so great. Let me.
So again, faithless electors, reason number 3,765 that Jen is in favor of writing all this crap down in an official way.
Yep. And by writing it all down, you mean with a pen and paper. You don't mean computers.
I mean in a way that it's certified as law. Just because, you know, laws can be revoked, rescinded, amended, you know, all the things. Laws are not set in stone, much though we pretend that they are, because in our lifetimes we haven't really seen a lot of legal change. But we should write it down right now just to cover our bases.
Yeah.
Because as my attorney parent always says, and at this point I have listed many professions of my parents, and it's up to the listening audience to figure out how the Venn diagrams work, which parent is what combination of things. But as my attorney parent always says, a promise is only worth the paper it's written on. I've heard that
before. There's a norm that can't be codified in law. Codified.
There's no silent E at the end. It's not an O. It's an ah.
There's a law that can't be codified. A norm that can't be codified in law, and that is the Supreme Court's recognition of precedent. There was an interesting moment out of the Amy Coney Barrett's confirmation hearing when she was talking about recognizing and adhering to precedent.
Well, there is case law.
Yeah.
That the judiciary can create laws. And precedent is one of the ways that they do.
Yeah, and the lower courts are required to follow precedent from the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is not required to follow their own precedents ever at all. And
that's why we have the advise and consent portion, where the Senate asks them about precedents that the Supreme Court has held and whether or not this particular justice will continue holding.
Yeah, and then none of them are ever going to say anymore. Which I believe that's a Kagan thing.
It would be very, very bold.
Yep.
But again, it's a norm. It's not required. So.
Yeah. So Trump has dug in his heels, and just this morning it was issuing a tweet that he is not going to concede anything, and he's not required to. But is anybody? My question now is: anybody surprised?
That would be the gentlemanly behavior. Would be the concession.
Yeah. And if he concedes, is that a legal thing? Does anything happen legally? Different?
Legally, yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why people were so mad when Bush, for his first term, little shrub Bush, had a concession made to him. You know, and to be fair, the concession was made because the country was divided and they were trying for unity and all this, and it was considered gentlemanly behavior at the time. But that concession is the end. It is the lid, nailing that lid on the coffin.
This is the year 2000 Al Gore.
Yeah, thing. Yeah. Gore conceded.
Given up on Florida.
Yeah, it could have been legislated, or it could have been taken and looked at in 90 bazillion different ways, and it was in the process, I believe, of being looked at in the judiciary. But he conceded before the judiciary made its ruling. And then they made their ruling anyway, just for shits and giggles. But the concession that he did ended everything.
Okay. I would have to go study that history, and I probably never will, but.
It's the same as, and again, I'm quoting my attorney parent, why you should never admit fault at the scene of an accident.
Oh, yeah.
Because as soon as you do that, you've just slammed the door, locked the door, and thrown away the key. Concession works the same way. If you concede, that's it. You said I'm out. There's no takesy-backsies.
Okay. In any case, Trump is not conceding. Is anyone surprised? Everyone who is surprised raised their hand on the show. No hands are going up. Wait a minute. I'll give you your full screen just in case you're raising a hand I can't see. No. And I am not raising any hands. We are not surprised.
I didn't expect him to concede. Though if this is the advice of his attorney, I'd like to give the attorney full props for finally actually getting Trump to listen to him about something, or her.
As your attorney, I recommend.
I mean, because attorneys will always tell you never admit fault, never concede, don't cut off our legal avenues. And so this sounds like the kind of thing that he might have been advised on. And thank you to whoever for getting Trump to listen. Now, there are some other matters I would like Trump to listen to you about. We'll talk later.
Yeah. Okay, so we don't need to go into all the stuff that they're looking at that they have claimed. Although it's kind of fun to look at a Washington Post story today. All the things that the administration's legal teams have brought up in court about the so-called fraud. And
I mean, they've got no standing, so good luck with that.
They'll claim massive fraud, and when they bring out the evidence, it's one example, one person.
Good luck to them. They have no standing. And without standing, no judge is going to waste their time on this. And as has happened, no judge has wanted to waste their time on this.
Yeah.
The judges have routinely said, you have no standing, get the hell out of here.
Mostly, I haven't heard that they have no standing. I have heard that they have no evidence.
I mean, to have standing, you have to have evidence that the thing happened.
I'm not sure that that's the way it works. I always hesitate to contradict you because
well, to have standing, you're usually somebody to whom something has happened. And if it has not happened, then you have no standing. And evidence of it happening would be really helpful. And if you don't have that, then did it happen?
Yeah, but there are cases where people will attempt to bring suit and they may have a case, but they don't have standing because they don't have the right position.
Because it didn't happen to them.
I guess that may be the case.
Because standing is not just something happened, but it's also something happened to me.
Okay. Yeah, I can see how you're putting those things together. It's just not the way that's usually described. It's usually, well, you brought the suit and then you had no evidence. So anyway, that's what seems to be happening. There are some things that are still outstanding. It could all blow up in our faces.
We shall see what we shall see.
It could.
I do ultimately have faith in clunky, disgusting systems because nobody loves bureaucracy more than bureaucrats, and they're not going to change for nobody.
Yeah. Would we be better off if all the Biden folks? Well, actually, they kind of have. They are not getting their noses way out of joint about this. They're just going, Trump's being Trump. We don't care. It would be helpful if we could get the security briefings and we could get in on the COVID mitigation.
I'm curious as to know whether Biden's former position as former vice president and his position as a senator doesn't automatically give him access to those.
Apparently not. At least that's not
because the Senate reporting. Gets their own sort of top secret briefings.
Yeah, but he's not in the Senate. But Harris is. I guess Harris, she's still an active senator. Yeah, very much. So, she should be getting her security briefings. But I think that's a notch or three down and not as frequent as what the president gets. Although more frequent than what Trump gets because he doesn't listen to his. Or so we've been told by people in a position to know who do not want to be named because they do not have the authority to describe what it is that they have been seeing. I think I got all my newsman disclaimers put together properly.
Let's say if it's him picking his teeth while he plays around on Twitter and pays no attention to his CIA briefing, God bless him. This is the way, because God only knows what he would have chosen to do if he was informed.
This is the way. Have you been watching The Mandalorian?
Not yet. I'm going to watch it with a group of socially distanced internet friends. And we're starting the week after my birthday.
Gonna like it. I'm up to speed on it now, but we've been binging it. And it didn't take long to binge because there's not that many episodes
Nope,
out.
there are 8 episodes per season. I've seen season 1. I just haven't seen season 2
Oh,
yet.
okay. You have seen some of Mandalorian, so you know the phrase "this is the way." It's it's almost Jen and Gary showtime, which means we can diverge from the heavy, weighty issues.
Wait. I want to add one more thing. Because there are show notes. It's scripted somewhat, but not always. And in the show notes is a very important mention, which is especially about the News and Observer, but it is about the fact that news costs money, and people aren't wanting to pay. Like good investigative journalism, we'll put it that way, costs money, and people aren't wanting to pay that money. And so, the journalists are not wanting to really leave us Poops Creek without a paddle, but it's getting close to it. And so the News and Observer has done a very interesting fundraiser.
I've already said fuck, so you can say Schitt's Creek.
But no, because I'm not naming that show.
Oh, well, not Schitt's Creek, shit Creek.
But it's the News and Observer has done a very interesting fundraising maneuver. Gary knows all about it. And I'm excited to talk about this because I want to talk about the website they're using to raise funds.
Okay. I'm showing some stuff here on the screen that may be relevant or may not. But go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm throwing to you. You can brief everybody about this, and then I'm going to jump in when we get to the website that they're using for fundraising.
Oh, okay. Well, they're doing a fall fundraising campaign, which is odd for a newspaper. Although the Indie Week, formerly the Independent, does fundraising from the subscriber base. Well, because for one thing, they don't charge money. I guess it's point
out that the News and Observer isn't less a newspaper now than a media empire, which publishes a paper.
Yeah,
they have video on their website,
and we'll say really a wannabe empire because I don't think they've hit empire status yet. But in any case, it's sort of a mini PBS NPR model, a little bit different because they've got advertising, and well, PBS NPR, they have underwriting, which has been sounding more and more like advertising these days. Local newspapers are in trouble, no question. Print readership, which gives them the expensive advertising, is down. Web engagement may be up, but web engagement advertising on their websites is cheap. They don't make a lot of money off of that kind of advertising. And so, while the engagement is up, it's not up enough to make up the difference. So in this fundraising that they were doing, I picked out some interesting statistics. And this is back when I was preparing for the show weeks ago. This is fairly old news. One of the things they said was last spring, more than 600 of you, they've done this before. They did one last spring. More than 600 of you came through and donated matching funds needed to support 3 reporters. I found that interesting that of the however many hundreds of thousands of people that subscribe to the News and Observer, it was 600 people that donated. That seems like a small number to me, but that's something that they were celebrating. And it funded 3 reporters, which also seems like it would be a very small number of reporters, but these days that's actually kind of important. I note that the Indie Week has solicited contributions, but they don't charge for their paper. It's always been free. WRAL, WTVD, WNCN, the TV stations, the news-generating TV stations around here, they are not doing fundraising. They're making plenty of money off of their advertising. The NNO's goal was $25,000. It also seems like it was kind of low. I gave myself a link to check to see how they're doing on that. And of their goal for $25,000, they have made $14,500. So coming right along.
Go show people that link. This is a website. It's everybody loves GoFundMe, but this is a website that I've encountered as well, and a nonprofit that I work with has used this year. It's called GiveButter.
Yeah, interesting name.
Because I guess butter for them dollar bills, y'all. But it's also it also comes from Give Better. Unlike GoFundMe, which does take a chunk of donations for themselves, Give Butter does not.
Okay, so somebody has funded Give Butter.
If you are a nonprofit. Now, if you're just out there like a for-profit organization or whatever, they will transparently let any donors know what the fees are, and they will allow the donor to pay the fee. And the fees are very, very low. They are exactly what the card processor charges to process the card.
Okay, and they've got a listing here of some people that have recently contributed. We're seeing donations of $100, $50, $100, $100, $25, $100, $250.
Yeah, it looks otherwise like GoFundMe, but if you scroll up, they identify that they're a 501c3. A lot of it's the italics. Those of you on the audio only podcast, he scrolled too fast past the italics at the very bottom of the story.
Oh, at the story. Okay, there we are. Okay.
There we are. Local Media Foundation Local Reporting Project is a program administered by Local Media Foundation, tax ID, blah, a section 501c3 charitable trust. A lot of the projects on Give Butter are 501c3s, which is how they can get away with having no fees except for the card processing fees. They allow crypto and Venmo, and this is one of the only sites that I've found that will take money from Venmo.
Okay, were you familiar with this before I stuck this in the show notes?
Absolutely, yeah. We've used it earlier on this pandemic.
Ah, okay. So cool.
I very much think that this website, if you haven't heard of it, deserves consideration if you were thinking of doing a GoFundMe and you are a 501c3 charity. And you would have otherwise done GoFundMe. Obviously, if you're directly soliciting donations and able to process your own cards and take your own Venmo, then you don't need a third-party system. But if you're sort of a three-man shop, like some of the 501c3s I've been on the board of, or the committee heads in various places, this Give Butter has been almost my entire wish list that I'd ever wanted while fundraising. Okay,
I had not encountered them before, so that's cool.
Because a lot of millennials and Gen Zers, they're like, I got Venmo. Can you take Venmo? And this allows the Venmo to be accepted, not only accepted, but counted into that total. And since Venmo does not charge money to transfer funds, there's no fees. You get 100% of that donation from Venmo. But the little how much has been donated ticker will go up in real time.
Yeah, people would be surprised, and I think often disappointed at how little of the money they donate in some ways gets to the organization that they intended the money to go to. Administrative fees.
I'm a big fan of paying for good journalism. I'm a bigger fan of accessing the News and Observer through NC Live, which your local public library subscribes to, and therefore you can get past the paywall. I'm a biggest fan of doing that versus pirating. And if you don't happen to have a local library card and you have reasons why you don't want to get a library card, then by all means pay for the journalism directly. Work is paid, and good work deserves good pay. And I'm also a fan of Give Butter. I think it's a good entrant into the arena of fundraising platforms.
Yeah, my hint or my clue is that the digital version of the News and Observer is a lot cheaper than the print version, and I think that they would love to not print the print paper anymore at all. Although it's kind of sad because just a decade ago they put in brand new presses with color and all kinds of stuff, and they print a lot of stuff on those presses besides the News and Observer. But I got a feeling they'd be happy to write that off now and be all a digital empire. But even as a digital empire, they're still not they're not thriving right now. One thing I don't know is at this point, compared to the TV stations, the news gathering organizations, the organizations that get original stories in the town are the TV stations, the News and Observer. Indie Week does some, And I've seen a small handful of apparently news generating organizations like Raleigh Today, an online thing. I don't know whether
Business Insider.
I don't know whether they are just scraping stories off of the web and off of the News and Observer, and they have real independent journalists. But I think that between the TV stations and the News and Observer, that's where most of the journalists are. And I don't know what the balance is these days. It used to be that the News and Observer had hundreds, and the TV stations maybe had dozens. It may be more even now.
I had a friend who was a journalist, and he was a fully independent contractor type journalist, and he would shop his stories around. So he would find a story on his own time on spec, and then he would shop the completed story around to the various news outlets and see who would pay him.
Yeah, there is that going on. But where can he shop one that's got the money to pay him? News and Observer, TV stations, but not much else. Okay, I believe it is. Can I make this play here? Come on, there we go. This music means we're done with the serious stuff. And now we can talk about the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda and something from the current issue, the current season that you have not seen yet, but has got Twitter all a-Twitter. And that is Baby Yoda's frog genocide. Okay,
spoilers.
I'm tired of the music.
Hashtag spoiler alert for those of us who
Yeah.
are not current.
Yeah.
But I like my spoilers.
This-
I like
this-
spoilers because they help me pick up on the artful foreshadowing. Otherwise, the artful foreshadowing goes right over my head.
Yeah, I don't mind spoilers too much because for one thing, I generally forget the spoiler, and then whatever's being spoiled is coming along. It's like, yeah, okay, now I've got a sense of what's going on. Usually, I'm mostly lost until I watch it the second time. In any case, I was avoiding watching The Mandalorian because I was afraid it wouldn't be very good. It's a Star Wars story.
So
And
many nerd fans, of which I am one, loved it. But no, it's fair to be afraid that it's not any good.
Yeah.
Discerning Star Wars nerds who don't stand for any kind of crap, who really enjoy The Mandalorian, but it still could be bad.
Well, okay. I hadn't paid very. I don't live in the world of nerd.
There are people who dress up as Mandalorians. The Mando Mercs. It's similar to the what is it, 501st, who dress up as stormtroopers, or the rebel bases who dress up as, well, rebels. It's a whole little subset of society, and they have organizational structure and so on and so forth. And they're the people who, if the Durham Bulls are having Star Wars night, will come in costume. They're not hiring actors from wherever. They're bringing in people who this is their fandom and this is how they want to participate in it.
The cosplay thing.
Yeah, except cosplay is it is not just costumes. It is the performance piece, and this is more like
You're just there in costume.
Cost interpretation, where
Okay.
you just straight up interpret a character without a script.
So in the Star Wars movies, there have been these characters, or primarily one character who is a Mandalorian, Boba
Yes,
Fett.
Jango Fett, and then Boba Fett later.
Yeah, and
But in the Clone Wars, there was lots of Jango Fetts. They were all his clones.
yeah. So first of all, I was totally thrown off by the Baby Yoda thing because I interpreted that too literally as this was Yoda
baby.
as a baby. And so I did a
the
little, not Yoda's
timing.
baby, the actual Yoda as a child.
Yes, the timing doesn't work out.
Doesn't work out at all. But it took me a while to realize that because Yoda died at age 950 or so.
Yeah, Yoda has died, and then Baby Yoda is found.
Yeah, and the Baby Yoda in The Mandalorian is 50 years old.
That is what they wanted it to be. That is how the script is written. but I have watched the what do they call it? The Disney Lightroom, Disney, whatever. Disney's behind the scenes. They did a behind the scenes of The Mandalorian, and in that, the directors did admit that while they were aiming for Baby Yoda to be 50, they also don't know how the Yoda species ages. So who knows how old he really is, and so they consider that something that may be fluid. So we might see some changes on that later on. Might see them trying to walk back the 50-year-old thing, where they're like, I was told he was 50. Well, you had wrong information. He's really 700. You never know.
Anyway, he's not. He looks like he would be like 2 in a human evolutionary.
I would say 1.
Yeah, he's pre-verbal.
Maybe 1 at like 14 months, maybe 13 months, like just because they start toddling around 1, so like a little over that, but not quite at the like I want the blue juice and not the juice in the blue cup and not the juice in the yellow cup, which is what you get at age 2.
Yeah, and he's not talking yet. So so I'm thinking, so this is all taking place 900 years before the Star Wars movies, and eventually enough references happened that I'm going.
Define the Star Wars movies.
Episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, they're across.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 have already taken place.
Right.
Now
But I didn't realize that. I'm thinking this is happening 900, 800 years before all those movies came out. And then enough references led me to believe I may be wrong about that, because this is not the Yoda as a baby. It's just a baby of the species of Yoda, of which we have only seen 2 up until this point. So I had to go online and do a little research and say, forehead slap. No. And this is placed after the main 6 movies.
Yes. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 have taken place, and it is
actually after the first 9 movies. No,
only the first 6. So the Empire is done. Leia has given Chewie a ribbon, and he's gone as happens at the end of 6. And now it is up to the rebels to impose order, and we are now in the time of the Mandalorian, when it is discovered that in fact rebels are really good at rebelling, but really bad at actually administering a government, a multi-star system government.
Same as it ever was.
And so we've got a little Wild West lawlessness going on, and
especially in the Outer Rim.
Yes, and then 7, 8, and 9 will pick up later, where the First Order rises to fill that governance gap, because people were crying out for some sort of, stability in this seeming anarchy.
So our Yoda is dead.
The First Order. That's why they're called the First Order. That's where the Palpatine comes back, because you can't keep a good man down. Am I right? and he's like, I know how to govern. I was in the Imperial Senate. I got this.
He's Trump.
Yeah, if Trump were that intelligent, I'm not really sure.
And he's Trump 2024, coming back to haunt us again. Okay, so our Yoda is dead. Mm-hmm. Just too old. 950 or so. And now we got this baby that is kind of a cipher, and the Mandalorian is barely aware of the Jedi. Yeah, he seems.
Oh no, they're well aware, because the Jedi were the ones who done genocide the Mandalorians.
But this particular Mandalorian is only.
He gets told in season 1 by the I don't know, some people call her the armorer. I call her the blacksmith. He gets told Mandalorian history in a bit of exposition aimed at the audience.
Yeah. But anyway, he's supposed to return this baby Yoda thing to the Jedi. That may be a season 2 thing.
Nope, that's at the end of season 1. They say he's your foundling now. Well, spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen season 1, but the very first season ends with the blacksmith basically saying he's your foundling now, and you are directly in charge of him as a adoptive parent until you can return him to his people, who appear to be the Jedi. But right before she says that, she then points out that the Jedi and the Mandalorians are actually what are considered to be natural enemies. And so he's embarking on a very risky mission where he is basically setting foot into a land of people who essentially historically want to annihilate him in order to give them back their little baby.
Yeah.
Yoda, I have a feeling will be the great uniter between the Mandalorians and the Jedi.
I'm stressing my ability to recall plot lines from the movie. Between Luke Skywalker and Han Solo, their relationship with Boba Fett was on again, off again, right?
By him.
Yeah, but then he helped them escape as well.
No, that was Leia. Leia came in.
Okay, I watched these movies fairly recently, but I don't take notes.
Yeah, no, Leia comes in dressed up as another bounty hunter, and thaws Han Solo out of carbonite, and then he's like, "No!" and she's like, "It's me, Leia," and then he's like, "Oh." And then everybody's like, "Yay!" And then they get out of there. But no, Boba Fett was he had a sort of a chaotic neutral bent to him.
Oh, so it was Luke who came into the Jabba the Hutt's chamber dressed as a Mandalorian.
No,
do I have that right?
Leia, and then they catch Leia and dress her in the bikini.
Okay.
That's how Leia ends up in the bikini.
That's right. She came in, and that was dressed as a Mandalorian in the helmet?
No, she was dressed as a bounty hunter, but not a Mandalorian.
Okay. It is so confusing.
Because not all Mandalorians are bounty hunters, and not all bounty hunters are Mandalorians, but in the Mandalorian, capital T, capital M, that happens to be a Mandalorian who is a bounty hunter.
Yeah. Anyway, the series
as was Boba and Jango Fett.
The series turns out I was wise to start watching. Even my wife is watching with me. She's enjoying it quite a bit. I don't think the series would have gone anywhere without Baby Yoda.
Disney Gallery. That's the name of the behind the scenes. I highly recommend that. If you watch The Mandalorian, but then watch the Disney Gallery of how they made The Mandalorian, I am blown away by the amount of technical effects and skills and technology. They could not have made this series at any time other than the present. I mean, they might be able to make it in the future, but like no time in the past did they have the technology necessary for doing what they have done here.
Cool. Yeah. Okay. I guess I'll watch it. I don't usually like watching the behind the scenes stuff because I've worked in production and
but you haven't seen
too much like
their
work.
Stage. Their stage is the thing. And also their cameras, they don't use a camera. It is all they have the alternate reality goggles and a little like 3-dimensional hand thingy, and they're filming the whole thing in VR. Because the stage has a bunch of fixed cameras that they're able to stitch together to give a 3D VR experience, and then the camera person is filming it in VR.
I guess I better go watch.
Saves a lot of money on the swooping cranes and the jibs and the sliders and all the other random stagey things. The old school filmmaking camera tricks. They're not doing it.
So the Baby Yoda frog genocide that's got the Twitterverse all up in arms. I can describe this without giving too much away. Because you know the Mandalorian will now be on a quest to return Baby Yoda. And part of it involves getting a frog woman, species of sentient and large human size frog type people, and a jug of eggs, unfertilized eggs, across the galaxy to her husband to fertilize the eggs and to keep. There's been some question of whether it's their whole species or just their family line, but and then something like that. To keep that going, And so there's this tub of these things. They're yellow, and it's a clear tub, so you can see what's inside of them. And there may be a couple of dozen inside there. And so on the trip, the little baby Yoda keeps dipping his hand in there and swallowing them. So he's eating these little baby, like we do chicken eggs.
Fair listeners, if you want to learn more about these frog people, I recommend from the Star Wars Extended Universe book series, which, by the way, is written at a middle school level, so it's totally YA, and you can blow through this. This is not some sort of heavy commitment. The book Leia, Princess of Alderaan.
Okay, so you're familiar with the Frog Lady.
Yeah, this is where they first debut, and in the guise of teaching Leia how to be a diplomat, as Leia was being raised to be as a princess of Alderaan, the entire culture of these frog people is explained.
Okay, so I knew nothing of this, and as usual, I'm just getting whatever I can from the show itself.
Am I outing myself as having a nerd fandom? I only dip my toe slightly into Star Wars. I'm a big fan of Vice Admiral Amelin Holdo, who is the woman with the purple hair, who goes and plays a game of chicken with battle cruisers and ends up buying the rebels a lot of useful time in the most recent trilogy. And this is the book that she was also in, which is why I happened to read it. Because if I'm going to interpret her as a costumed character, I need to know about her.
Is she the actress whose name I can't remember right now, but
yes.
on interviews said that when she was such a fan of the first movies that when she was in the later movies as an actress shooting her blaster, she would literally be going pew pew, and they had to cut that part out.
I did not see this interview, so I do not know, but she was in only one of the later movies, so I'm guessing not.
And
I don't believe she fired her blaster at all, but she had one. She's the one who wore a long, mauve dress, which is a combination of purple and brown, and had purple hair and bracelets. And I called her Space Auntie because Poe is being Poe, and I know things, and he's making basically rookie mistakes. And rather than her arguing back, she just goes, you know what? I'm gonna let you try it your way and see what you discover.
Yeah, I think that's the person we're talking about.
And then when he discovered that his way was full of flaws, she came in and she was like, okay, let's analyze what went wrong there. And do you think that you're going to be as hot-headed in the future, maybe?
She was a nanny.
Yes. Well, that's why I do a good job interpreting her as a character.
Okay. Anyway, some people are just aghast that they would have put Baby Yoda eating these little frog embryo things.
Man, nature's cruel. What do you want?
Yeah. And when I was watching it the first time, it was like, oh, they're going there. Okay. And I'm not writing it off like it's just fiction, because it's the writers making a deliberate decision to put this into the show.
They're showing that this is not a panacea, and that nature is cruel.
Yeah. He doesn't eat them all. He's not wiping their species out or whatever it turns out to be. Could be their family line, could be as small as that, could be their species. Seems like we can't tell.
I'd love to see all the people who are outraged turn vegan. That would be interesting.
Maybe they all are. I don't know.
Although it should be vegan if we decide to go with the same rules, because there is no silent E at the end, so it can't be V, because that's a long E.
Yeah. We'll do that show. So I gotta dig up the thing about English. I vaguely remember something I picked up out of Facebook, and something about the irregularities of English and just how awful
English
it is.
sucks.
Yeah. As
a language, we do our best, but we suck. Yeah. Also, if I might plug another podcast for those of you listening to this podcast, there is a linguistics podcast that I really enjoy, and as soon as I was about to say it, I forgot the name of it, but it's part of the yourquickanddirtytips.com network of podcasts, and when you get there, it's the only linguistics podcast they've got. So give that one a listen if you love getting nerdy about pronunciations.
Pedantic much?
No, pedantic has to do with the definitions, right?
I got a feeling it could be any, just getting overbearing about any aspect of anything. And just coming down a little bit too hard on the absolute right way to do it, especially on something like English, where there just really isn't.
I find it fascinating, and the woman who does the show she's on the don't worry about it, language evolves side of the linguistic spectrum in terms of traditionalists versus, you know what, if that's the way people are using it now, then that's the way it's gonna be. It's okay.
Yep. Okay, is there anything else in our list that you really want to get out? Because I want to do the I want toast, because it's easy.
I did want the I want toast, and I wanted to comment about I've seen this when teachers have gone missing. And so to give you a summary, fair listeners, fair audience members, there was, as has happened a lot in this time of distance learning, a technical glitch, and a teacher dropped off of asynchronous classroom time video call, and the Lord of the Flies resulted. The children were left to themselves, plus or minus whatever adults were around, not fully attentively monitoring the kids, because at this point, even the child I'm in charge of has pretty much got it. She can handle it herself, so I can go and do other things like cook lunch. And this is what resulted. You queued up?
Yep. This is from Good Morning America. It didn't happen on Good Morning America. It's just they put this together. They put a little music behind it. I'm hoping that they don't give me a takedown.
But we'll try and at least discuss.
Teacher's gone.
Guys, what happened? She left the meeting. Yeah, she left the meeting. It kicked her out the internet. Yeah. You guys see me?
How old are these kids?
All of you guys.
They look kindergarten age, maybe first grade, but definitely not second grade.
Record sign at the top of the screen. So the teacher's recording this. She can watch us and see that we're not behaving.
I was that kid.
They are not behaving.
No.
Yeah, we know. That should be serious trouble. I know, but I'm just muting my mic because I don't want to talk. So we should behave. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. My mom told me that. I mean gummies. Because if the principal finds out that video of if we were being bad right now,
I was absolutely that kid.
See us being very bad, and
this is what later to be diagnosed in adulthood anxiety looks like in a child. Because I was that kid.
We're in trouble.
Yeah, yeah. Anything new is that's going to end up badly.
We just missed the whole toast thing, so I'll back up for it. Back up one more time.
Very bad, and we would get in big trouble with our parents. Well, we're toast.
We're toast.
We're just talking. Toast means we're in trouble. I want toast.
I want toast.
She doesn't have her number. Our phone. And
as a teacher, a former teacher, let me fully assure any children listening that yes, the teacher does have your number.
We know who you are.
For breakfast tomorrow. I said that. That sounds really bad. They don't. That sounds funny. They don't know our number. I said that. With toast and eggs, that sounds really good with lettuce. Not eggs.
Oh, okay.
I will say that the virtual, the distance learning that the eldest one that I care for is doing, the teacher has recently done breakout rooms and craftily makes sure, because the teacher knows which kids have an adult nearby, craftily assigned one adult nearby kid to each separate breakout room, and just given the kids a small number of classmates with whom to interact, 3 to 5. And they have these just adorable little video chat discussions.
How old are the kids you deal with?
7 years old. on the screen, and then 2 years old off the screen.
Okay, so the 2-year-old's Baby Yoda at this point.
The 2-year-old gets pulled into frame a lot like Baby Yoda. Like, here, let me show you my adorable 2-year-old. Okay, bye. But no, they have discussions about like crayon colors and like, I have a red crayon. Oh yeah, well I'll show you all the red things that I own, and it's adorable.
Okay.
And I think the teacher knows that we adults, as soon as they get sent to breakout rooms, we nearby adults are like on alert in case anybody is like, let me show you my body without clothes on, or like, hey, dad, here comes dad with a knife about to stab me in the neck, or whatever that an adult might need to pay attention to and act on.
Okay, I'm digging out. Oh, there we go.
And I know I got dark fast, but there was at least one case of a child being assaulted on camera that has happened this pandemic.
Oh, damn.
So, if you are a parent and you are nearby to a kid, and they mention that something like that is going on, don't laugh it off as if that would never happen. Do give a look at the screen, because there might need to be intervention.
Yep. I'm looking for the last thing I want to put on here, and there it is. It's our sign off. This came up in the News and Observer. I'll give you a chance to read through it. Let
me read. It's the Big Nate comic, and Big Nate is reading into the microphone for the school announcements that go over the loudspeaker. Okay, there is going to happen in room 204 a meeting.
Yeah, foreign students, so his English is a little awkward.
Also, there's going to happen in room 204 a meeting for, that's a positive phrase if they put some commas in, a meeting for the Spanish club today at the end of school. Okay, that is the ending of morning announcements. I hope everyone have a good day. And now we're on panel number 3. This is Arthur signing off, over and under. And then then we transition to a new student, a boy, and he's with lovely black hair, and he says, aha, he meant over and out. What a pinhead. And then the next speaker is a female. It says, that's adorable.
Yes. You recognize the reason I brought that up, I'll bet.
Yes, and I have taken my instruction from that, and I will be sure to give the correct words.
Yeah, that goes on, by the way. They take that little scenario and they expand it to the next 3 or 4 days worth of that comic. Somehow they managed to...
Come at me if you think that people getting the grammar structure of English when it's not even their first language is wrong. I will fight this fight with you. How many languages do you speak that you get the perfect grammar structure?
Yeah. 1 and 0. I'm Gary Pierce, and you are...
Nanny Jen, also host of Nanny Cast.
And this is the only show I do. This has been episode 122, November 15th, 2020. I even have a little cutout of Norm here that someone conveniently put a PNG so I didn't have to do the careful outlining. I just stole it off the web. And we talked about it. This is one of the rare shows where we talked at some length about the title of the show. Probably because I arm twisted you into doing it. Norms. Do I still have Norm up there? Can I get him to say the name of the show again? I think I still do. Let's see.
Afternoon, everybody. Norm! How you doing, Norm? What do you know?
Well, I almost got the right picture up there, but not quite. And by the way, that is courtesy of the Peacock Network, the new streaming service from NBC. As a I think an old Letterman joke once said, NBC proud as a peacock, or smart as a peacock, or something like that. I don't care. We're done with this show. Oh, I got to get my triangle thing out here. Over
and under.
Good job.